Welcome back to the Stuff About Money podcast. Today is going to just be me and you. I am Erik Garcia, certified financial planner, and this is going to be a one-on-one about goals. I'm going to tell you why. It's my natural tendency whenever November hits, it's my MO to start reflecting about the current year. Like what did I accomplish? What didn't I accomplish? And then I also start thinking about the following year and setting some goals and things I want to accomplish. Sometimes I over goal set. So I've been reflecting um, about goals lately and taking a hard look at the way that I approach goals. And I figured it was worth talking about here on the podcast. Now, this isn't an episode on how to create smart goals. It's not an episode about let's start thinking about 2026 New Year's resolutions. If you've heard me before, I'm not a big resolutions type person. I think we should always be setting goals or setting objectives. But this is more of an honest conversation about why goals can sometimes frustrate us and why they sometimes feel like they're working against us and what we can do differently. And I want to share a couple of specific experiences that changed the way I think about goals, including the year that Dr. Matt Morris, Dr. Matt as a friend of the show, he looked at me and said, Erik, you just make bad goals. And then also my golf goal this summer that almost made me quit the game again. It's these moments, these experiences have helped me rethink what goals actually should be, what they should look like, and how to keep ambition from turning into self-sabotage. Because if we're honest, a lot of the goals that we create are these crazy, wild, ambitious things. And I'm not suggesting that we don't do that, but I think you'll follow along, and I think you'll know what I'm talking about. So let's talk about Matt Morris and what happened with Dr. Matt Morris. Long time ago, I was doing an annual review with Dr. Matt. Again, Matt's a couples counselor, family therapist, longtime collaborator of mine. We used to meet early in our careers a long time ago, and we would create business plans and we would present our respective business plans to each other. And then we would check in quarterly, we track our progress, all those types of things. And I remember one year specifically, I was sitting there talking to Matt, and I honestly felt like a failure because I had set some goals that I had fallen far short of. And I remember lamenting to Matt, and Matt listened, probably in his typical therapist way. And he paused and he very calmly looked me in the eye and said, Erik, you just made a bad goal. And I remember thinking, wait, what? Like, you're not going to judge me. You're not going to tell me that I didn't work hard enough, that I lost discipline throughout the year. Uh, you're not going to comment about me failing, right? It's supposed to be accountability. But his comment was about how unrealistic the goal that I created was. That goal itself was just unattainable. And it started to reframe in my mind how I looked at what had happened. Started to change my mind how I goal set. In fact, there's a phrase I heard years ago, and it hit me in that moment. And I've been thinking about it as I've been reflecting on goals. But it says this: it says, most people overestimate what they can do in the short term and underestimate what they can do over the long term. Let me repeat that. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in the short term and underestimate what they can accomplish over the long term. And isn't that true, right? Especially for those entrepreneurial types listening, right? We set these wild, ambitious, borderline heroic goals, and then we don't hit them. And we assume something's wrong with us, that we have failed somehow. But then, like, we zoom out 5 or 10 years and we look back and we realize, wow, I'm in a place that I never thought I'd be in. I built this business that I never thought I'd be able to build. We've raised families. We've recovered from setbacks. We've grown in ways that we couldn't have even predicted. We're terrible forecasters generally over a 12-month window, but we're surprisingly impressive at what we can accomplish over a decade, right? We overestimate what we can do in the short term, and we underestimate what we can do over the long term. So that's one of the reasons why I have started thinking about goals differently. Okay. I've stopped treating goals like a destination. like something I have to reach. Instead, I think of them like a direction. So follow me here. If I'm standing on the coast of New York, I guess Long Island, I'm not real familiar with the geography of New York, but I'm on Long Island looking towards England, and I decide that I am going to swim from New York to England. And if anyone's honest, that's probably impossible, right? No one can swim that far, but that's the direction. England is my direction. It points me somewhere. It orients my decisions. And along the way, I can set certain objectives. How far do I want to swim each day? How long I'll stay in the water? How long I'll rest, right? I've got checkpoints that I can now measure, but they're not the goal itself. See, the goal is pointing me in a direction, and the objectives are guiding me along the way. And I think that's an important distinction. I think objectives can be measured without defining who you are, right? Missing an objective doesn't mean you failed. It's just a data point, right? It's just giving you information as to whether or not you are pointed in the right direction. Let me give you another example of this from this summer, right? If any of you play golf or have tried to play golf, the game has a spiritual gift for humbling you, right? I played a lot earlier in my career, but then life happened, right? The businesses, kids, then I had shoulder surgery. I didn't play very much. And when I finally started playing again, I kind of had this off and on relationship with golf. I'd get frustrated and angry. And some days it was fun, but most days it was frustrating. And why do I even bother, right? But this summer, I set this wildly ambitious golf goal. I wanted to get back into the sport. My goal was probably highly likely it was unrealistic. Guess what? I missed the goal by like not a mile, but like 10 miles. And there was a time where I'm like, why am I even doing this? This game is ridiculous. This is just a waste of time. Right? You've all probably been there. Remember, we overestimate what we can accomplish in the short term and we underestimate what we can accomplish over time. Right? So I stepped back and I reflected and I thought about the whole summer. And I realized, wow, I actually did improve. I genuinely did get a little bit better. And the problem wasn't the work that I put in, it was the goal. It was a terrible goal. My real long term goal is simple. I want to grow to love a sport that I can play for the rest of my life. That's the direction. To grow to love a sport that I can play the rest of my life. It's the direction. Whether it takes me 1 year or 5 years to become decent, it doesn't matter as long as I'm headed in the right way. Now, there's objectives along the way. Fewer lost balls, longer drives, fewer putts per round. All those are measurable. They're objectives, they're checkpoints, and they help evaluate my progress. They're data points, but they're not the goal. They're a part of the journey toward enjoying the ultimate goal, which is, again, enjoying the sport. Now, let's connect this to money. I think there's some direct correlations here because I see the same pattern in financial goal setting all the time. People make these huge, aggressive financial goals. I'm going to retire by 50. I'm going to pay off all my debt by the end of the year. I'm going to save $100,000 a year. I'm going to max out every single account that I possibly can. Now, depending on your circumstances, it could be realistic, right? They're all great aspirations if they align with reality, but often they don't. And when people fall short, they feel shame, they feel frustration, they feel like they failed, and sometimes they just quit altogether. But here's the truth: they just made a bad goal. It's not a bad intention; it's a good intention. In fact, it wasn't a bad effort; it could have been a good effort. It just might have been a bad goal, right? Financial independence or financial security, it's a direction, it's a pathway. The real objectives are reducing debt, increasing my savings rate, building my assets, managing my cash flow, budgeting, creating margin, financial margin, so that I'm not stressed all the time how I'm going to pay for things. Those things are measurable and adjustable. Missing one of them doesn't mean that you've missed the goal. It doesn't mean you're off course. It just means you adjust and keep moving, right? Those objectives are data points. So here are two things I want you to hold on to. One, set better goals, not bigger ones, not more detailed ones, better ones, goals that orient you, long term, meaningful, directional goals, and then backfill that with objectives that guide your steps. Two, recognize that you're always going to overestimate what you can do this year, and you're always going to underestimate what you can do, let's say, over 10. So give yourself some grace. Missing an objective doesn't mean you're off course. It just, quite frankly, means you're human, right? You're not failing your goals. Your goals just might need a reframe. Fix the direction, adjust the objectives, and trust the long-term journey. Now, I think that this is a much easier proposition when somebody is walking alongside of you, when you have communicated to somebody what is that goal, that long-term direction towards, or that long-term direction that I'm headed towards. In the financial space, you hire a financial planner. This is the work that Xavier and I do for a lot of clients. We help clients determine, help them clarify what those long-term things that are important to them, that they want to accomplish. Then we help them set objectives and we check in along the way. That's probably some of those valuable work that we do that it's really hard sometimes to put a dollar figure on. Is we help you stay true, stay oriented towards what that long-term direction is. All right. So if this episode has encouraged you, if it's reframed maybe how you think about goal setting, go ahead and share it with somebody else. We'd love for more people to hear this message. If you don't already follow us, go ahead and make sure you like and follow the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. Again, I appreciate you hanging out here with me today. We'll catch you in the next episode. Plan wisely, live confidently.